All right, good morning, everyone. How are we doing today? Everybody go out last night? Yeah? Not me. But I hope everyone's having fun. My name is Jillian. I lead the community advocacy team here at DBT Labs, and I will be your host for today's session, Engineering Your Analytics Career Path. So Phoenix doesn't know this yet, but as the running owner of the community agenda for Coalesce for the past 2 years, there's always less than a handful of talks that I accept, like, on the spot. This year, Phoenix, you are one of those talks. So Phoenix is here today as a recent graduate of a master's in applied analytics, and she's here to talk about those who are looking to find their way in the field of analytics. So before we jump in, just a couple of quick things before we get started in regards to participating in the Slack for those who are tuning in online. So all of the conversation will be taking place in the Coalesce Engineering Your Analytics of the DBT Slack, and we encourage you to ask questions, make comments, react at any point in the channel, and Phoenix will be hopping into the channel after her session to take questions. With that, please give a warm welcome to Phoenix.
Hello, and welcome to Engineering Your Analytics Career Path. As Jillian has mentioned, my name is Phoenix J. I am a speaker, thought leader, and an analytics engineer. Excited to hear that there's so many of us here this week, and I've had a ton of career pivots to get where I am today. If anyone attended the accidental analytics engineer yesterday, it's a very similar story, I think, for many of us here. So thank you for joining me. All right. The first part of this section is merge to main. And what that means for me is a pivot of mine of a story that really encouraged me a story with the larger picture, the larger world. And I want to encourage us here today to merge your story to main. At my first Grace Hopper celebration conference 4 years ago, I was still in my master's in analytics at the time. I didn't know anyone there, and the call to action back then was just to contribute in some way. Big or small, didn't really matter, but I went to this conference, didn't know anyone, I thought I was all by myself, and I wasn't really an analyst or in analytics yet, but I posted the picture on the left in a digital art gallery in the app, and about 10 minutes later, someone from undergrad, who I hadn't talked to in years, texted me to say, "Are you here at the conference? Like, I just saw a picture go up with your name on it, so let's find each other." And for me, that changed my whole trajectory, because I went in thinking that I wasn't really part of it, that I didn't really belong, but 10 minutes after posting and contributing and merging my story to the main branch, actually opened up a lot of doors and pathways for me that day. And that's how I felt last year at Coalesce. I attended, I made some posts, and all of a sudden, everyone was there supporting me and welcoming me in. And that's what encouraged me to really make that leap. I returned to Grace Hopper a couple weeks ago, where the theme was Next is Now. And now I wasn't just taking pictures of the food or the hallways. I was taking pictures of me. I was taking pictures of everything, and I was contributing on social media, and I was making sure that my story was heard. So for our very first takeaway, this quote here. I spoke to a lot of people for this talk and got their insights, and I'll share their insights all throughout. This is from Jason Gans of DBT Labs. There's no need to earn the right to tweet about what you know. You're already there. You're already here at this conference, and what you share today will help you in your next endeavors. All right, now to the meat of the presentation. We're already comfortable merging your story to the main branch. Now for some SQL. Select from where? Selecting data from a database. That's where we start, often. What role are you looking for? It's okay not to know. It's okay to have an idea that you might have multiple pathways. You don't have to be exactly into one, but if you know you're guiding your North Star, then you're able to move forward in a very clear path. And speaking of clear paths, what DBT has helped us to show is that there is this old model, pre-DBT, as you call it, from a data engineer that would take the data from its raw state, a data scientist that would optimize it in some way, and then the business stakeholder that would make it profitable. It's almost like a factory assembly line. This new model that we have, it's a lot more integrated than that. It's not a clear line. Everything is all together, and that's why it makes it so easy to move from one to another and make that pivot. And so, for example, you can look at it like this. There's these three roles, right? And this is just to illustrate a story. These are from insights that I got from various people that I spoke to, but these will change all throughout. But what we'll see here is that a data scientist role will cover some areas, an analyst in other areas, an analytics engineer in other ways. But let's say that we want to focus on moving between the data analyst and analytics engineer, right? You want to focus more on the transformations piece, or vice versa, as you move throughout. And so you can look at all the different skills between various roles and figure out where you want to prioritize and deprioritize as you move through, and especially in data, as they are all integrated. And again, looking at tools here, you can kind of see how things move through. And if we want to say, focus on DBT, same thing. That's where the transformations are happening, and you can move through them. But this is just for today. In a week, in a month, in a year, all of this will change. And so, by merging your story to the main branch, you'll get to learn from others, and you'll get to hear what they have to say to know which skills you're trying to move through and which tools you need to know. But you don't have to know them right now. At this conference here today, figure out what's the new tools, what's the new systems, how are the roles changing? Because I went for my master's from 2018 to 2019, and there's nothing about analytics engineering in the curriculum. So things will continue to change. I learned about DBT, and that's how I made the switch. All right. We've picked what to select from. Which growth avenue do you want to move towards? Personal skill development, internal to your company, or external networking? Where? Filter it down, break it down to personal skill development, self-study, boot camp, formal degree program. So self-study can look like getting the textbook, virtual, digital, online resources like Data Camp and Coursera, and then Kaggle being one of the best ones with online data sets and competitions to build a portfolio. And then, boot camp versus formal degree, 3 to 9 months if you have that time, formal degree, 1 to 2 years. I've done all 3 of these, and my next question for you is a poll. Fact or fiction? And feel free during this talk to be on your phones, to be in Slack, to engage with the rest of the attendees today. A formal degree program will ensure that my career switch will be stable. Fact or fiction? Hint number 1. In my research for this talk, someone said, data is a wild west, constantly changing and evolving. Hint number 2. After I left my PhD program, it was clear that my formal learning was quickly becoming obsolete. Anyone else with that same kind of experience? Because I've talked to quite a lot of people this week, and it's resonated with many of them, including myself. So this is fiction for anyone that chose. All right, for our next where clause, internal to your company. Your peers, your colleagues, managers, including your skip level, and outside teams. For your peers and colleagues, that might be the easiest one to start with, to talk to. And your managers, absolutely, you want to let them know what your skills and what your goals are, including your skip level. You can ask them for help, but you can also just share with them. Again, merge your story to the main branch and let them know, because then they will look out for you. And you don't have to necessarily ask for it, but just sharing where you're going helps other people to help you. As for outside teams, they're not that scary. You can reach out to them. They might not necessarily work with you on the day-to-day, but they might have projects that they might allow you to shadow on, virtually or in office. And they might be able to find projects with you that you can actually contribute in your day-to-day. Things that they wouldn't necessarily put onto your plate if you were just going about your day, but if you share, they'll likely find something for you. Then also, the individual contributor and management tracks. You can stay along where you're going, but you can also move up, around, and back, and you don't have to stay in one linear track. Just because you go onto a management track doesn't mean that you can't go back. And lastly, for our where clauses, the external community. You're here. You're here at Coalesce. You're attending either in person or virtually. And for me, Slack has been one of my best. Shout out to the DBT Slack community, because y'all are awesome. Attending last year's Coalesce and feeling like it was in the room with me. I was in person, but just in my room. It's just, I don't know how that worked, but they made it happen. Vibey. Speaking to a lot of other people, Twitter has been a great place to share your story and to upskill and network. And then Discord communities are growing quite a bit. One of the interesting feedback that I got as part of the research for this talk is that LinkedIn was dying out. LinkedIn was dead. I'd love to hear about that from folks. Have you heard anything like that? Because I hadn't. That was truly very different from what I was expecting, and it's actually been pretty extreme, the ranges that I've heard. I know that for myself, LinkedIn has been a wonderful opportunity. My first intro slide was just, copy-paste. But honestly, it depends on what industry you're going towards. If you're going towards crypto, Web3, then yeah, there's probably newer communities that you're going to want to find. But where do you start to find them? You probably want to start on LinkedIn and ask around, but then they'll probably put you to the right place. So, for the takeaway of this part, remember that there's also joins that you can do. You don't have to go through just personal skill development or just through your internal work network. Feel free to use all of them and move around. For the final part of this talk, we want to use the incremental build. And what does that mean? So for my career path, it's been really winding. And going from academia and operations to data and eventually to analytics engineering, just in June, I believe was my title, officially analytics engineer. Grace Hopper was in between my financial operations role and moving into data management. Coalesce was what helped to move from data analyst, and within a month or two, my company was looking for someone to use DBT, and I had learned it at Coalesce through external networking, and that's how the story went. And so, for our final takeaway, use an incremental build. Focus on your small wins. No step is a big step. Every step is just a step closer to the right direction. And if you need that validation today, if you don't necessarily feel comfortable saying that, I am an analytics engineer, that I'm on my way, I'm happy to be that validation for you today. I say that you can do it. You're here, you showed up, you participated, keep sharing your story. And so feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or any other new community that you find. Let me know about it, I'd love to know. And connect with me on the DBT Slack. I'd love to hear about your stories, your journeys. All this week, I've been able to hear from everyone on where they came from, how they accidentally or intentionally became an analytics engineer, or moved to data engineering, or into companies that they had never heard of. And so please do share with me, share where you're going in the Slack, participate in the threads, and I wish you all the best of luck.
That was incredible. Thank you so much, Phoenix. The chat's going wild. I think you have a lot to respond to in there. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I think I could see it resonating with a lot of people here. I know it resonates a lot with my career trajectory as well. So Phoenix knows what she's talking about. Thank you.